time for some real education, and you know what? It's more time for some Van Eyck here on Van Eyck Week on the Dr. Duke Show. So, Dr. Duke, take it away.
Yeah, Jan van Eyck is the study of our 5 instant classics for this week. He's a great Flemish painter, born about 1390, died about 1441. One of the first major masters to use oil paints for all sorts of beautiful ways. There on the left, you can sort of see him. He's the very confident-looking artiste in the elaborate red turban. And I want to talk to you today about his Ghent Altarpiece. It probably is the most famous, most impressive altarpiece in the history of the world. It's a huge piece that was meant to be set on an altar when Mass was not being said. And if you take a look at the image here, there's what it looks like. It is about 15 feet, I believe, 11 by 15. It's huge. And all of these absolutely gorgeous pieces of the altarpiece are joined together with wood by joiners, carpenters. They can move. You can fold up in different ways. You can reveal certain pictures and cover up others as you want to. But this is the Ghent Altarpiece. It is an absolute amazing masterpiece of Western art. It's one of the most valuable and desired pieces of art in the history of the world. And of course, you can see God there at the center of the image in the top. And of course, this is going to be celebrating the Mass. It's an altarpiece for a reason. It sits on an altar when it's not in use, the altar. And so it shouldn't surprise us that the far right and the far left wings of the Ghent Altarpiece at the top, you see 2 naked figures who are obviously immediately recognizable. They are Adam and Eve. And it makes sense that this whole altarpiece should be framed by Adam and Eve. Well, why? Well, because Adam and Eve's sin is what has to be remedied in Christ's death. The Holy Communion that Roman Catholics believe in, where bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ through the sacramental miracle of the priest, all of that is part of the remediation of sin. Christ had to give up his body, shed his blood, so that the sins of the world, literally the sins that were introduced into the world by Adam and Eve, could be compensated for, grace and mercy. And so go back to the picture there. You see these beautiful renderings of Adam and Eve, and there they are. I mean, Adam, they're both, obviously this is the moment after they have been discovered, they have eaten the fruit together. In fact, Eve holds in her right hand a citron, probably a little mini lemon or a citrus fruit, an orange. This was much more likely the fruit that medieval and Renaissance people would have associated with the Garden of Eden. The idea of the apple really didn't become popular until the 17th century when the English poet John Milton made his Paradise Lost, his poem, long epic poem, Paradise Lost, revolve around the eating of the apple by Adam and Eve. But this is 250 years earlier. And so the citron, you can see it in her hand. She's holding up that which they have eaten, and she's covering her private parts out of shame. Adam is covering his private parts. The fact that they now realize that they are naked could only have taken place after their eyes have been opened to sin, which is what happened when they ate the fruit. And it really is a gorgeous picture. It's a very stark, compelling image of them. They look very much like a Flemish couple would have looked in that time, the early 15th century. They are stylized in many ways. Adam is stepping forward. He's got his right hand overly. How long is that arm to be able to hold that fig leaf over his private parts? And then the looks on the faces, and then you can see an almost one would think almost gravid Eve. Carrying that that very robust figure, and the elongated anatomy again. If you look at the right foot that you can barely see behind the left, and you look at the swell of her belly, literally her belly would have to come down mid-thigh. And so what we have here is a extended view of shame. And that's what frames the altarpiece. If you take one step back again to the previous picture, you can see how Adam on the left and Eve on the right frame what's happening, because what's happening in the Ghent Altarpiece is the consequences of sin ushered in by those 2 framing figures, Adam and Eve, was going to be overcome on the altar. And we're going to spend the next 2 days. The first day we looked at the Annunciation by Van Eyck. Second day we looked at the Arnold Feeney wedding poetry. Today and the next 2 days, to make a week, we will look at the Ghent Altarpiece. Now that we know what the purpose of Adam and Eve, that naked couple framing the picture is, tomorrow we'll tackle some of the other symbols.